these lawsuits hit, you might never have to register your suppressor or SBR again. Not someday. I'm talking about a real legal path that opened when Congress zeroed out the old NFA tax. Here's what's changed. The so-called One Big Beautiful Bill passed this summer, and gun policy pieces inside it killed the $200 tax stamp for suppressors, SBRs, SBSs, and AOWs starting January 1st, 2026. This bill contained a provision that would, among other things, eliminate the burdensome $200 excise tax imposed by federal law on suppressors, short-barreled firearms, and any other weapons as defined by the National Firearms Act. Translation, the money grab is gone. You won't pay the $200 tax after the effective date, but, and this is the fight, the feds left the registration process in place. That mismatch is exactly what the new lawsuits are attacking. Silencer Shop summarized it cleanly. $200 tax stamps for suppressors, SBRs, SBSs, and AOWs reduced to $0 starting January 1st, 2026. NFA process and registry remain for now. So essentially, they killed the tax and kept the registry. That's legally awkward because the registry was historically justified as a way to track who paid the tax. No tax equal the original justification just fell out from under the registry. That's the lever. Effective January 1st, 2026, the OBBB eliminates the NFA's taxation requirements for those categories of firearms, leaving behind vestigial registration requirements that no longer serve as proof of payment of any tax. When they say vestigial, they mean leftover parts, like an appendix. If the law's power came from collecting a tax and there's no tax, then using that same law to force you into a registry is a legal overreach. That's what they're asking courts to shut down. It's not just one case. A coalition of the ASA, NRA, SAF, and FPC filed a separate challenge in Missouri. On August 1st, 2025, a coalition of 4 leading gun rights organizations comprised of the American Suppressor Association, National Rifle Association, Second Amendment Foundation, and Firearm Policy Coalition announced the filing of a joint federal lawsuit in the District of Missouri challenging the constitutionality of the National Firearms Act. And the Second Amendment Foundation lays out the constitutional angle. The lawsuit also asserts that the NFA's registration regime for suppressors and short-barreled rifles violates the Second Amendment. The complaint urges that there is no tradition that supports the NFA's registration regime for protected arms such as suppressors and short-barreled rifles. So, in plain talk, under the Supreme Court's current test, the government has to show a historical tradition of similar restrictions. And now that the tax is zero, that whole old "it's just tax enforcement" excuse looks flimsy. To be clear, there's political pushback. Senator Chris Murphy tried to spike the football the other way around. U.S. Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat from Connecticut, slipped in a proposed amendment to a defense spending bill that would skyrocket the National Firearms Act tax to $4,709. That tells you exactly how big this fight is. If your opponent's move is to jack the tax to $5,000, it's because zero terrifies them. So what happens if this lawsuit wins? Well, 1, no tax. That part's already in the law with the start date. 2, no registration, because the court would block ATF from enforcing NFA registration on these now untaxed items, which means you would basically get to walk into a store, buy a suppressor, and leave. 3, the suppressor or SBR become a normal purchasing item, like they should be. Now, Firearm Policy Coalition puts the big picture this way. This important case challenges the NFA on 2 separate grounds. It exceeds the limited enumerated powers granted to Congress in Article 1 and violates the right to keep and bear arms protected under the Second Amendment. Translation: they're attacking both the power source, Congress can't hide gun control inside tax law that no longer taxes, and the rights violation, the registry restriction fail the Second Amendment test. Now, I'm not gonna sell you a fairy tale. The DOJ and ATF are gonna probably fight like hell. Expect them to argue the registry can stand on other constitutional legs, like the Commerce Clause, or that courts should punt on technicalities. Some media will frame this as extremists dismantling safety laws. We've seen that script already, but this time, the terrain favors us. The tax is gone. The historical tradition test is the law of the land, and the lawsuits are targeted at that exact contradiction. You can't use a dead tax to keep a living registry. If you're wondering about this tactical hieroglyphics that I have on my hat, I'll make it easy for you. The right to bear arms. Well, right to bear arms. There's actually no "the" on the hat, but you get the point. And if you're interested in having one of these beautiful tactical hieroglyphic hats, as I like to call them. I have them in hats, I have them on shirts, I have them in drinkware, I have them pretty much on everything at shop.mrcolionnoir.com. So I'm gonna put a link in the description section for you to check out, and I'll go on over and grab you some tactical hieroglyphic merch. Right to bear arms. It's kind of clever, no? I think so. One thing's for certain and two things are for sure. Politicians and tech giants don't want gun content to be recommended to you. And we're all fighting this culture war together. Now you can help do your part by liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel, but most importantly, sharing this video with at least one person. Together we can stop the suppression of our 2A rights. And don't forget to click the link in the description section of this video for the products that I mentioned in this video.